Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and today I'm on the Jillian Vance design blog with a fun Easter card using some alcohol ink. I've been experimenting with alcohol inks lately, trying to figure out a technique that works for me. There are so many ways to use them, and here's one more. I started with 4 colors of Copic refills in pretty spring colors. I do have a few alcohol inks, but I have way more Copic refills, so it's easy for me to find the colors I want. I put a few drops of each color into this cheap dollar store palette, and then I picked up some yellow ink with a pipette that I got on Amazon. I placed a drop on the Yupo panel, and then I added 1 drop of blender solution. I used an air puffer to move the ink around a bit, turning the panel. Then I moved on to the pink and I did the same thing, putting the drop of ink and blender solution close to the yellow ink that was drying. Then I kept doing the same thing over and over and over, so I'll speed it up and take some out so that you don't fall asleep. One thing I will say is that by repeating it so often, I started to really get a sense of how the inks moved on the paper and how much control I could have. These pipettes are very inexpensive. I got them on Amazon and they just act as droppers. I find that the less ink I have on the panel, the more control I have with my air puffer, which I also got on Amazon. These tools give a very different look to the Ranger foam blenders that I've also used in the past. I've found that by puffing the ink around in a circle, I get overlapping lines of color that are very pretty. I turned my panel on the craft mat to help me with the direction of the air, and I'm thinking that a little Lazy Susan would be another helpful tool. When I got to a point that I felt that I had enough coverage, I got out the big Easter egg die and I ran it through my Gemini Junior. Next, I followed the exact same process to create a nice chocolate brown panel for my bunny from the Chocolate Bunnies set. This time I grabbed 2 shades of brown Copic refills and I made the area a little smaller. I love how these browns move in the blender solution, creating lovely rich pools of color. Once I had the egg and the bunny cut, it was time to figure out the sentiment. I got out the Minnie Pearl Bookmark, which I've used as a sentiment strip in the past. I cut 1 bookmark out of white cardstock, and I didn't worry that it wasn't complete, because I used the egg die to cut it so that it would fit perfectly onto the egg. When I placed the sentiment die onto the strip, I could see that it was really too wide, and I wanted as much of those pretty colors showing as possible. So I used one edge of the bookmark die and I lined it up parallel to the die cut, and then I ran it through my machine to make it narrower. This is a really simple trick that lets you get more out of that one die. You just need to be a little careful to make sure it's straight. Once that was done, I lined up the sentiment on the strip and I moved it to the right so that there would be room for the bunny before I used my die cutting machine to cut it out. To finish the card, I inlaid an alcohol ink sentiment into the white sentiment strip before popping it up on the egg with foam tape. I popped the bunny's bottom up as well, so that his ears could be adhered right onto the sentiment strip. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm having so much fun learning how to use alcohol inks and then figuring out how to use the resulting panels on my cards. Shopping links are below and on Jillian's blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.